I'm 20 years old now, but this story takes place when I was 14. I need to tell you about my family dynamic first, because without understanding that, nothing else makes sense. I have a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. When he was 4, he was diagnosed with high-functioning autism, and from that moment forward, my parents treated him like he was made of glass. But here's the thing, other than his diagnosis, he seemed completely normal. He was just incredibly spoiled and learned to use his condition to get his way. And I mean, he got his way with everything. Anything I had, he also had to have. We had doubles of almost everything in our house, because my brother couldn't stand the idea of me having something he didn't. But if he had something I didn't have, he would rub it in my face every chance he got. When I was 11, I begged my parents for a handheld gaming device for my 12th birthday. I finally got one, but immediately, I was told I had to lend it to my brother whenever he wanted it, or else they would take it away completely. And they did take it away, frequently. My aunt witnessed this happening once. She came over for a visit and saw my parents forcibly take my gaming device out of my hands to give to my brother. She absolutely lost it on them for such obvious favoritism. They gave it back to me immediately. But after my aunt left, they blamed me for causing the scene. A few days later, they went out and bought my brother his own gaming device as a surprise gift. Problem solved, right? Wrong. One day now. My brother had this habit of making every birthday party about himself, even when it wasn't his birthday. On my birthdays and other people's birthdays, he would throw massive tantrums because the party wasn't centered around him. He would openly state that he was upset because he wasn't getting any gifts or getting to blow out the candles on the cake. My parents learned the hard way that they couldn't enable this behavior at other people's parties. They were actually kicked out of several birthday parties for trying to accommodate his demands. Because of this, other kids at his school eventually stopped inviting him to birthday parties altogether. For me, my birthdays were some of the only days I had that were supposed to be about me. Otherwise, my parents forced my entire life to revolve around my little brother. But even on my own birthday, they couldn't help themselves. The year before this story takes place, when I turned 13, my parents spent the entire time at my birthday party paying attention to him instead of me. They even asked me if I would let my brother blow out my candles because he was upset and pouting in the corner. I refused. I wanted to blow out my own candles on my own birthday. They called me a spoiled brat at first, until my aunt intervened again and called them out on their favoritism. She pointed out how much she had noticed that my brother gets nearly everything between the two of us just because he's autistic. My parents got no support from anyone else at the party except my brother, who was still crying because he didn't get to blow out my candles. Because he didn't get his way, he actually tried to spit on my cake out of spite. Thankfully, my aunt blocked him before he could do it, then scolded him until he ran to my mother in tears. My parents took a lot of criticism from the other adults there. They promised never to ask me to let my brother blow out my candles again, but they just went through the motions for the rest of the party. My aunt basically took over coordinating everything from that point forward. The following year, a couple of weeks before my 14th birthday, my parents sat me down for what I thought would be a planning conversation. Instead, they told me they were still going to get me some gifts and a small cake, but my birthday party was effectively canceled to avoid my brother having another meltdown. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were canceling my birthday party to protect my brother's feelings. I told them I couldn't believe they were doing this to me, and they just shrugged it off without any concern whatsoever. At school over the next week, I told everyone what was happening. My friends, my teachers, even my school counselor. All of them were completely appalled by my parents' lack of consideration. The vice principal found out and tried to console me. All of this feedback got back to my parents through social media and word of mouth. Instead of reconsidering their decision, my parents grounded me and tried to gaslight me for telling so many people about our family business. But that didn't stop me from continuing to tell everyone at school that I was now grounded just for being upset that my birthday was canceled for no good reason. This made everything much worse for my parents, because several of their own friends, along with parents of other kids in my school, started calling them or sending them messages asking what the hell was wrong with them. Suddenly, I was ungrounded. My dad just walked into my room with his arms crossed, told me my grounding was over early, and walked out. That was it. No apology, no explanation. I thought my party was still canceled because nobody said anything about changing that decision. My brother thought it was hilarious and kept rubbing it in my face that I wasn't going to get to celebrate my birthday properly. By the end of those 2 weeks, my parents held a surprise party for me at my favorite restaurant. Then they started claiming it was their intention all along to surprise me like this. I knew that wasn't true from everything I had witnessed. Everyone in our extended family was incredibly unhappy with my parents for what they had tried to do, and it showed in every interaction family members had with them afterward. They threw the surprise party to try and save what little of their reputation they had left. I'm pretty sure they had to pay a fortune that day just to accommodate me on short notice. I got dinner with all my friends at my favorite restaurant that had a small arcade, and I even got the gaming console I had been wanting. I could tell everything was planned and bought at the last minute because my dad had this look about it. My aunt later described it as looking like someone had just pulled his wallet through a paper shredder. My brother, of course, made a huge fuss about me getting this surprise party. But with so many of my friends and their parents there, my mom and dad finally put their feet down and told him to stop his tantrum. When he tried to push my cake off the table, they gave him a timeout for the first time since he was a toddler. My mom had to stay with him to make sure he didn't do anything destructive. He kept trying to run to the cake or the stack of presents, and we had to keep at least one adult on guard at all times to stop it. Eventually, my mom had to remove my brother from the party entirely and take him to a nearby restaurant with a play area. I heard later that she spent at least an hour trying to get him to come out of the play structure, and he only came out because he had to use the bathroom, then immediately tried to run back in. My parents never tried to cancel my birthday again while I lived with them, but they also never tried as hard or spent as much for the remaining 4 years I was under their roof. My birthday parties after that consisted of a local pizza place, a cake without even my name written on it, and never again anything as expensive as a new gaming system. I don't want to sound spoiled, but I was disappointed that I never got a cake with my name on it again. My aunt called my parents out on this every year, and every year they claimed they forgot to get the cake decorated. I'm pretty sure the reason my name was never written on another cake was because my brother always refused to eat pieces of cake that had someone else's name written on it at any party. They couldn't put his name on my cakes, or it would have looked terrible for them, so they just stopped putting any names on them at all. The fact that I still got a day that was about me at all instead of my brother was still fantastic in my book, especially because just about everything else revolved around it. During each of my remaining birthday parties while living at home, my brother would make a fuss, and my mom would take him somewhere else to calm him down. I was still required to share my gaming console with my brother, but it was still officially mine, and I took it with me when I moved out at 18. My brother did not like that at all, and had a huge tantrum until my parents went out and bought him another one. When I moved out, my parents finally had to deal with how they had raised my brother to be so spoiled, because I wasn't there to help manage him anymore. On his recent 14th birthday, my brother completely lost his mind when our parents didn't get him the latest gaming console he wanted. He is currently grounded for I don't know how long after causing hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars in damage during his rampage. He picked up a chair and started destroying everything in front of him with it. My parents just looked mentally checked out when I saw them afterward. My aunt told me they confided in her that they wish they could send my brother to military school or boarding school because they can't handle the monster they created anymore. But there's no way they can afford that. I'd be lying if I said I didn't find it ironically funny that the chickens are finally coming home to roost. Let me tell you about some of the birthday party disasters that happened when my brother was around 6 or 7 years old. These incidents show you exactly what my parents were dealing with and how they handled it completely wrong. A neighbor boy down the street was having his birthday party, and my brother got invited because they were sort of friends. My parents dragged me along, even though I would have rather stayed home. I was bored and sitting down almost the entire time, so I witnessed everything that happened. It started when my brother was caught picking up gifts off the present table and shaking them. The mother of the birthday boy told him to stop, and my parents tried to defend my brother, saying he was harmless. But this lady knew what my brother was really like, and made my parents move him away from the presents. There were some games that the kids were playing. The birthday boy got first pick and first turn on all of them because it was his birthday. But my brother freaked out because he didn't get to be first. My parents actually asked the birthday boy's mother if my brother could get the first picks and turns instead. The lady not only refused, but told my parents to get my brother under control, or we would all be asked to leave. Then came time for the cake. The mother lit the candles for the birthday boy, and the adults started singing Happy Birthday. They only got as far as singing the birthday boy's name in the song before my brother burst into a tantrum at the table. He grabbed the side of the table and started trying to violently shake it. My parents had to hold my brother back, and then I saw my mother go up and talk to the birthday boy's mother again. The poor lady looked absolutely disgusted, and I learned later that my mother had asked her to let my brother blow out the candles first, and then they could redo it for the birthday boy. The lady told my mother that it would be best if we left, and then they went back to trying to redo the birthday song. My brother couldn't take it and ran to the table and shoved the whole cake right into the birthday boy's face. He used his arm to literally sweep the cake and heave it right at that poor kid. The whole room was silent for a few seconds, and then some of the kids started laughing because they didn't understand what had happened. Then the birthday boy started crying and the adults were all horrified, except for my parents. My mother just started hugging my brother tightly and acting like an entitled parent, saying this could have been prevented if they just let my brother blow out the candles first. The mother of the birthday boy was cleaning chocolate cake off her son and screamed at my parents to get out. The other kids there started crying because it had finally hit them that now there was no cake for anyone. My mother started dragging my brother out, but he broke free of her, and then pushed over the table with all the presents on it. I grabbed him and held him until my parents could control him. I apologized profusely to the mother of the birthday boy and said I wasn't on my parents' side in this matter. That's right, 12-year-old me had to apologize for my own parents' behavior. My dad yelled at me to get moving or I could walk home. I said I would walk home. It was literally a quarter mile down the street. I stayed and helped clean up the mess my brother had made. The lady thanked me and said that I was a good kid, but my brother was just rotten. Someone went out and got another cake while the birthday boy had to take a shower because he was covered in chocolate. All of the mess was cleaned up and they redid the birthday song. After the party was over, the mother of the birthday boy wrote something out on a piece of paper. It was a handwritten invoice to my parents for the destroyed cake, along with a written threat to call police because someone there with a camera had caught everything on video. I handed the invoice to my parents and they really didn't look happy when they read it. Then they gave me the cash and told me to take it back to the lady, so I did. Neither that kid nor his family ever associated with my brother or my parents ever again. The messed up thing is that in another birthday party months later, the same situation nearly repeated entirely. My mother asked the parents to let my brother blow out the candles first, gave nonsense excuses as to why, and they outright refused. My mother acted like a total entitled parent again. My brother tried to knock down the cake, but I was on guard this time and intercepted him. Then we were told to leave. It was after that incident that my brother was no longer invited to birthday parties that weren't with relatives. And then on my next birthday in that same year when I turned 13, my parents tried to get me to let my brother blow out my candles, and my aunt tore into them for that. I guess that's when my parents decided that if I couldn't share my birthday, then the next year I shouldn't have a party at all. And now you know how that turned out. My brother is now dealing with the consequences of years of enabling. The recent birthday rampage where he destroyed hundreds of dollars worth of property was apparently the final straw for my parents. They've finally realized they created a monster, but now they don't know how to fix it. My aunt has been telling them for years that this day would come, that my brother would become incapable of functioning as an adult if they didn't change their approach. She also made it clear to them that I would not become his caretaker when they become too old to manage him. The look on my parents' faces when they realized what they had done to both their children was something I'll never forget. They destroyed my childhood trying to protect his feelings, and in the process, they destroyed his ability to function in the real world. The intervention we held brought everything into the open. My aunt had written an entire speech about their parenting failures. I read my own speech covering everything I've told you, and plenty more. My grandparents and other family members all had their say. My mother was in tears, and my father just held her. They both apologized to me heavily, and said they were terrible parents who had ruined my childhood. My aunt stated loudly that it should not have come to this for them to realize their own mistakes. When my brother was brought into the room for his part of the intervention, he was seated away from my parents, because my mother would have had an urge to comfort him when he got upset. It didn't take long for the family to confront him about his behavior. He tried fighting back with excuses like if only they just let me have my way. But when that was about all he could say, we all explained to him that's not how the world works. He tried getting help from our mother, but she refused to even look at him. He started huffing and acting like he was hyperventilating, then intentionally fell to the floor. It's not the first time he's done this dramatic routine. My aunt just told him to stop milking it and get up. He screamed at her that we were all ruining his life, and he wishes we were all dead. My parents were horrified. My brother refused to get up off the floor and kept breathing heavily to pretend to have some sort of attack. So everyone just left him laying there while they each said their piece about why they were there. Eventually, everyone started leaving, and my parents had to actually drag my brother back to his room because he refused to get up off the floor. He's not used to people having no sympathy for him, especially from our parents. This is going to be a long uphill battle, but my aunt has offered to help pay for therapy, and my parents have accepted. Let's hope therapy does my brother some good, because at this point, that might be his only chance at becoming a functional adult. The damage to our family has been done. But maybe now, finally, there's a chance for real healing to begin. My parents are learning that love isn't the same as enabling, and my brother is learning that the world doesn't revolve around him. As for me, I'm just glad the truth is finally out in the open. My childhood may have been sacrificed on the altar of his special needs, but at least now everyone can see what really happened in our house for all those years. Sometimes it takes a complete breakdown before real change can begin. In our case, it took my mother's mental breakdown and a family intervention to finally break the cycle of dysfunction that had been destroying us all. Let me tell you about another pattern of behavior that my parents enabled for years. My brother's obsession with stealing money from me and others. My brother and I both got equal allowances of about $25 a month. I say sort of equal, because he didn't have to do any chores for his money, while I had to earn mine through household work. But that's in the past now, because my brother is currently doing all those chores for nothing as part of his punishment. My brother always wanted more money though. Whether he spent it or saved it, he loved having new things, but sometimes he would just hoard the cash instead. It was strange, because you would think a kid like him would immediately spend everything on the first thing he wanted. One day when I was a teenager, I came home to find my room had been completely ransacked. The only thing missing was my money that I had hidden to try and keep it away from my brother. I thought I had hidden it well, but he found it anyway. My mom was home when he did it, and she acted like she didn't even notice the destruction. But there's no way she could not have heard him tearing my room apart. My room was on the first floor right near the living room. My door was completely visible from the couch where she was sitting. When I called her out on this during our family intervention years later, she just cried and made excuses about my brother being special until other family members told her to own up to her negligence. I demanded the money back, and my mom just made more excuses. My dad did the same when he got home later, but I refused to let it go. I eventually got that money back because I wouldn't drop the issue. I heard my brother screaming as they took the money out of his piggy bank to return it to me. They had the most disappointed looks on their faces, like I had just robbed my brother, even though he had robbed me. They couldn't tell me off because I wasn't wrong, and they knew it. A few months later, the whole situation repeated itself. My brother ransacked my room again and stole my hidden money again. That time my parents didn't want to do anything about it. They basically said they couldn't bear to see my brother so disappointed from having to return stolen money. I reminded them that stolen money wasn't his money, and it was really messed up that they were just sitting back and letting theft happen in their own house. My dad actually yelled at me to go to my room for pointing this out. The next day, I rode my bike to my aunt's house and told her everything. She came back home with me and asked my parents directly if they really let my brother steal from me, and did nothing about it. My mom started whining that my brother has special needs and she didn't want to make him cry again. My dad backed her up. My aunt gave them both this narrow-eyed look and reminded them they have 2 sons, and my feelings mattered too. She said what they were doing was very wrong, and it meant my brother would never respect boundaries, and would think he could always get away with stealing when he got older. My aunt asked me openly how much my brother had taken. I stated the amount, which at the time was everything I had saved, except for the few dollars in my wallet. My aunt gave my parents an expectant glare. My parents tried making more excuses, but my aunt had a counter for each one. Finally, my parents went into my brother's room, and a moment later my brother was screaming. My parents came back with all the money my brother had stolen, and practically threw it at me for making my brother cry. My aunt then told them off for acting that way when I had done nothing wrong. She picked up all the money they had thrown at me and made them give me a proper apology. Before she left, my aunt offered for me to hide my money at her house in a lockbox she had. I took her up on that offer and started keeping my savings over there. My brother ended up ransacking my room 2 more times looking for money, but I was keeping every cent at my aunt's house. My parents actually asked me where I had hidden it, and I refused to tell them. When I asked why they wanted to know so badly anyway, my dad instantly got defensive about it. Since he couldn't find my money in my room, my brother figured I must have hidden it somewhere else in the house. So he started systematically tearing the house apart, one room after another. And guess who was made to clean up all the mess? Me, of course. My parents started blaming me for the whole situation, but when I asked how I was at fault for not letting my brother steal from me, their only response was that my brother had special needs. I swear they used that excuse with me thousands of times over the years. The final straw came when my brother ransacked our parents' bedroom. My parents had a small suitcase safe that they kept some emergency cash in, and my brother locked himself in their room and took the whole safe. He started bashing it around on furniture trying to get it open because he couldn't find the keys. By the time my parents were able to break the door open, my brother had destroyed their entire bedroom. He never got that safe open though. He just sat on the floor clutching it and crying about the money inside it. My dad was so angry that his face turned red, and they actually started yelling at my brother for the first time in years. They grounded him, which was a very rare sight for me to see back then. Then my parents forced my brother to help clean up the mess he had made. After that incident, my brother never ransacked mine or my parents' rooms looking for money again, but he would still go searching every time he got an idea where my savings might be hidden. So I started acting like I was giving him hints by repeatedly going into certain places while he was watching. He ransacked our backyard shed, dug a bunch of holes in the yard and under the back porch, and even ransacked the attic. My parents really hit their breaking point with the attic destruction and grounded my brother again. They never figured out that I had deliberately led him on either. My parents did eventually figure out I was keeping my money at my aunt's house, and they didn't argue with my reasoning for doing it. But either my brother overheard their conversation, or one of them accidentally told him. Because the next time we visited my aunt, my brother tried to hunt for the money there too. My aunt yelled at him to stop and threatened to press charges for any damages if my brother destroyed anything in her house. She also kept a digital camera ready to record anything if necessary. My parents heavily scolded my brother to stop looking for my money because it wasn't his, and he couldn't have it. He screamed and cried like a 3-year-old even though he was 7 at the time, saying he wanted my money. After that, my brother said he didn't want to go to my aunt's house anymore, so my parents visited less frequently. My aunt visited us much more than we visited her anyway. I was able to keep my money away from my brother until after I moved out. He never managed to steal cash from me again, but his classmates at school were another story entirely. He was caught going through other kids' backpacks many times at school. He was forced to return stolen items and then sent home, where he would cry to mom and dad. They would then try to argue with the school administration, who would berate them for letting my brother think what he was doing was acceptable. The school had to teach my brother that it's not okay to go through other people's belongings. I actually heard him say, but I wanted what they had several times when confronted about his theft. This same excuse got used again when my brother stole an envelope with birthday money from a cousin during their birthday party. He tried to stuff the envelope in his shirt and walk out with it, but the cousin noticed their money was missing. I suspected my brother right away and pointed everyone toward him. He ended up crying and thrashing when my dad found the envelope hidden in his shirt. We had to leave the party early because of the scene he caused. Recently, my parents have been trying a new approach with my brother's punishment and rehabilitation. Since my brother likes cycling but no longer owns a bike because they sold it during their garage sale, he was without an outlet for exercise. My dad found a used exercise bike and put it in my brother's room. He also got a used CD player so my brother could listen to music while exercising. My brother rides that exercise bike aggressively now, since he can't go outside unless it's to do chores. He tunes into whatever music gets him going, and then rides that bike with an intensity I can only describe as hate riding. It's almost like what you would expect to see on the face of a vindictive prison inmate exercising in their cell, while waiting for the day they can get out and get revenge. I mentioned this concerning behavior to my parents, and they have the same worries that I do. So my dad started burning custom CDs with my brother's favorite music that used to be on his gaming computer before they sold that too. Each CD has 10 songs, and he gets one for every week of good behavior. He's only gotten 1 CD so far, not because of bad behavior, but because not enough time has passed for him to earn more. I'm not sure I would call my brother's current behavior good. He's just not actively being bad. I don't hear him complaining out loud anymore most of the time, but I can see the resentment building in his face. He definitely resents me. But it's not the same look he gives our parents when they aren't watching. He glares at them like they destroyed his life. But he glares at me with envy, like I have everything he wants. The look seems to say, just wait until I'm 18. I remember having similar thoughts about wanting to move out after high school, but I made sure I had actual life plans with help from my aunt. My brother doesn't know anything about planning for adulthood, so he's probably still thinking about it in the simplest ways a kid would, just assuming everything will magically work out once he's legally an adult. This whole experience has taught me that love without boundaries isn't really love at all. It's just enabling destructive behavior. My parents thought they were protecting my brother, but they were actually setting him up for failure in the real world. Now they're all paying the price for years of dysfunction, and I'm just glad I managed to escape before it completely destroyed my own future too.